Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to tackle complex topics and really boil them down for you.
Get right to the core insight.
Exactly. And today we're diving headfirst into something huge in the tech world, managing software development. Specifically, how do businesses handle constant code changes? How do they deploy efficiently, reliably, and, at scale?
Yeah, there's often this feeling of a gap, right, between writing the code and actually getting it out there to users smoothly.
That's the perfect word for it, a gap. And bridging that gap is exactly what we're trying to do in this deep dive.
Precisely. We're exploring DevOps. That's the methodology designed to close the gap. And we'll really zero in on a tool that makes it happen in the Salesforce world, Gearset.
Okay.
And our main source for this is a great document, Understanding DevOps and Gearset Fundamentals by Avinash Dahre.
Ah, Avinash Dahre. Now, when we talk about credibility, Avinash really brings it. This isn't just theory for him.
No, definitely not.
He's a Salesforce certified administrator, deeply experienced, and his Trailhead profile, wow, 8 super badges, over 150 badges. It shows real mastery of Salesforce, like flow, automation, security, all that stuff.
And you see the practical impact, too, like his work at Intellipaat.
Right. Automating university processes, complaints, courses, leads. That wasn't just ticking boxes. He cut manual tasks by 20%.
Yeah, it's significant.
And get this, slash data entry errors by 70% using validation rules. That's huge.
It really is. And that kind of hands-on success, plus his experience managing orgs, supporting Agile, coordinating UAT, it all gives his views on DevOps a lot of weight. It shows he understands the whole life cycle.
Totally. So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to unpack DevOps. What is it really? Look at its core principles, and then crucially, understand how a tool like Gearset applies these ideas to make Salesforce development better for you, the listener.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning then. DevOps. Where did it actually come from? What problem was it born to solve?
Well, it's actually a pretty cool origin story. It really came out of frustration. A guy named Patrick Dubois back in 2007.
Okay.
He was working on this big data center migration, and he just got really fed up with the disconnect,
Yeah.
between the developers writing the code and the operations teams deploying it.
Ah, the classic dev versus ops friction.
Exactly. It felt like they were always pointing fingers. Developers wanted speed, ops wanted stability, and it just wasn't working smoothly together. Dubois thought, there has to be a better way.
That aha moment. So what happened then? Did it just take off?
Well, that sparked the idea. He went to an Agile conference session in 2008 called Agile Infrastructure. That sort of solidified his thinking that ops could be Agile too.
Okay.
But the real momentum kicked in around 2009. There was this influential talk at the Velocity Conference by guys from Flickr, John Allspaw, and Paul Hammond.
Oh, yeah. What was so special about that?
They talked about how Flickr was doing like 10 deployments a day, which back then was revolutionary.
Wow, 10 a day. Unheard of.
Right. And later that same year, Patrick Dubois actually hosted the very first DevOps Days event in Belgium. And that's where the term DevOps was officially coined.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Pretty much. It's grown massively since then. So when we define DevOps now, it's really that methodology for bridging the gap between dev and ops.
Right.
Promoting collaboration, automation, and those key practices. Continuous integration, CI, and continuous deployment, CD.
Okay, CI/CD. We hear those acronyms a lot.
We do. And the whole point is to let organizations deliver software faster, but also more reliably. You do that by building in best practices for testing, monitoring, and deployment automation.
So it's fundamentally about making sure developers and operations are actually working together, not in their own little bubbles.
Exactly. Shared goals, shared responsibility, that's the core idea.
You mentioned collaboration being key. What's the biggest, maybe the biggest cultural roadblock companies hit when they try to make that happen, to actually break down those bubbles?
That is such a critical point. Often it's just ingrained habits and, well, different incentives. Dev teams might be pushed for features.
Indeed, yeah.
While ops is focused on keeping everything stable, zero downtime, those can feel like they're pulling in opposite directions.
Right.
So building trust is huge. Having shared ways to measure success, getting teams to understand each other's pressures. It's about moving away from just, throwing code over the wall.
Got it. It's a real mindset shift.
Totally.
So, okay, if it's this fundamental shift, what are the actual building blocks, the core elements that make DevOps work in practice?
Right. The source material lays out 6 fundamentals. Let's walk through them. First up is continuous integration, or CI.
CI, okay.
That means developers merge their code changes into a central place, like a shared repository, really frequently. maybe multiple times a day,
Why so often?
because it catches problems early.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone waits weeks to merge their work, you get these massive, painful integration nightmares.
Ah, the Hurge conflicts from hell.
Exactly.
Hmm.
CI helps avoid that. Find bugs when they're small and easy to fix.
Makes sense. What's next?
Second is continuous deployment, CD. This is all about automating the release process itself.
Automating the deployment.
Yep, making it smooth, repeatable, with minimal human clicking involved. That drastically cuts down on errors caused by, someone forgetting a step or configuring something wrong.
Okay, taking the human error out as much as possible.
Precisely. Third fundamental, version control.
Like Git.
Exactly like Git. It's essential. It tracks every single change to the code, keeps a full history, and makes it possible for lots of people to work together on the same stuff without stepping on each other's toes. It's your safety net.
Your code history book. Got it.
Number 4 is automation again, but broader. Automating testing to check code quality, automating the deployments we just talked about, and automating monitoring after release.
So automating everything possible.
Pretty much. It boosts efficiency, ensures consistency across different environments like dev, test, production, and makes the whole process reliable.
Okay, what's 5?
5 is collaboration. This brings us back to that cultural piece we discussed.
Right, breaking down the silos.
Yeah. When dev and ops work closely, share responsibility, you just get faster, more reliable releases. Everyone's invested in the whole process, working.
A shared ownership culture.
Exactly. And finally, number 6, monitoring and feedback.
Okay.
This means having good tools in place to watch how things are running in production, detect issues quickly sometimes before users even notice, and then feed that information back to the teams to make improvements.
So a continuous learning loop.
You got it. Detect, learn, improve, repeat.
What's really striking here is how these aren't just technical steps. They're deeply tied to culture and communication, like you said. How does embracing these actually translate into, real-world benefits for a company? What's the so what for our listener?
That's the key question, isn't it? The cultural change is huge,
Mm-hmm.
because without it, just buying tools won't magically make DevOps happen. But when you combine the culture and these practices, the benefits are massive. It's not just about speed. It's about safety and reliability.
Safer deployments.
Yeah. Fewer failures, less downtime. And when something does go wrong, you can recover much faster because of things like version control and automation.
Okay.
It leads to higher quality software, less stressful releases for the teams, better communication, and ultimately a business that can adapt way quicker to what customers need or what the market's doing.
So it makes the whole organization more agile.
Absolutely. The benefits ripple outwards.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for anyone in the Salesforce world. We've got the DevOps principles. How does a specific tool like Gearset plug into this? How does it help Salesforce teams actually do DevOps?
Right. Gearset is designed specifically for this. The source calls it a 100% SaaS-based DevOps platform for Salesforce. Its whole reason for being is to help Salesforce teams manage changes quickly and, importantly, reliably.
So it's tailor-made for Salesforce's quirks.
Exactly. It understands Salesforce metadata, dependencies, all that stuff. And the document highlights how Gearset assists in adopting and evolving Salesforce DevOps practices. It's not just a tool. It helps teams get better at DevOps over time.
Okay, evolving practices.
Yeah, leading to increased reliability and higher success rates for deployments. Think fewer failed deployments, less late-night troubleshooting,
That sounds like music to many ears.
doesn't it? And it's built to scale and fit into how teams already work. Whether you're trying to get away from cumbersome change sets or you need solid data backups, Gearset aims to provide those solutions within a DevOps framework.
Okay, so let's get practical. What can Gearset actually do day to day? What are some key features that make life easier for Salesforce developers or admins?
Yeah, let's look at some specific applications that really make a difference.
Great.
First, there's compare and deploy. This is huge for accuracy. It lets you see visually the differences in metadata or configuration between two Salesforce orgs or between an org and source control.
So you see exactly what's changed.
Exactly. Side-by-side comparison. It highlights the differences, makes it easy to select just what you want to deploy,
Right?
and gives you confidence you're not accidentally overwriting something important.
Right.
Cuts down on guesswork.
Okay, that sounds way better than just hoping for the best.
Definitely. Tied into that is the problem analyzer. This is a lifesaver.
Oh, how so?
It proactively scans your deployment package for common issues before you deploy. Things like missing dependencies between components, API version mismatches, stuff that usually makes deployments fail.
Ah, so it catches errors before they
Yeah.
happen.
And it often suggests fixes, too. It saves so much time compared to deploying, watching it fail, and then trying to figure out why. It's proactive, not reactive.
Wow. Okay. That's a big shift. What else?
Then there's the CI/CD pipelines feature. This is where the automation really kicks in for releases.
Continuous integration, continuous deployment.
Right. You can set up automated workflows. Like maybe every time code is successfully merged in Git, it automatically deploys to a testing sandbox. Or you can set up scheduled deployments to production.
Making releases consistent and reliable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fast, reliable, less manual effort,
Mm.
fewer mistakes. It embodies those CI/CD principles directly in Salesforce.
Okay. Any other major ones?
One more I'd highlight is backups and restore. Seems basic, but it's crucial.
Data safety.
Yeah, Gearset automatically backs up your Salesforce data and metadata. And if something goes wrong, data corruption, accidental deletion, you can restore it quickly, often down to individual records.
Peace of mind.
Total peace of mind. Scheduled backups, on-demand backups. It safeguards that critical business data.
It really sounds like Gearset touches almost every part of the Salesforce development lifecycle: comparison, error checking, deployment, automation, backup.
It aims to be comprehensive, yeah.
Hmm.
There's also change monitoring, unit testing support, org comparison, environment management tools.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that precision, visibility, and safety you mentioned to the whole process.
Looking at all these features, what stands out to you as the absolute biggest game changer for a Salesforce team adopting this? And maybe, are there common mistakes or pitfalls teams run into when they first start using a tool like this?
Good question. For me, honestly, it's the combination of that problem analyzer catching errors up front and the CI/CD pipelines enabling smooth automated releases.
The proactive error catching and the automation.
Yes. Together, they transform Salesforce development. They take away so much of the manual grind and the risk that often comes with Salesforce deployments. It moves teams towards being much more efficient and predictable.
Okay. And the pitfalls?
The biggest pitfall, even with an amazing tool, is often forgetting the people and the process.
Ah, the cultural aspect again.
Exactly. You can have Gearset, but if the teams aren't trained, if leadership isn't championing the new way of working, if people resist moving away from old habits like change sets, the tool won't deliver its full value.
So adoption requires commitment beyond just buying the software.
Absolutely. It's a shift in how you work, supported by the tool, not just a tool dropped into the old process. It takes ongoing effort.
That makes a lot of sense. So, bringing it all together, thinking about Avinash Dhur's final thoughts in the document, what's the ultimate takeaway for organizations that adopt DevOps principles and use a tool like Gearset?
Avinash really concludes that this combination, DevOps principles plus a tool like Gearset, fundamentally streamlines the Salesforce development process
Streamlines it how?
by significantly boosting efficiency, reducing those deployment risks we talked about, and really fostering better collaboration.
Okay.
It's about moving to a structured approach. That means smoother releases, fewer errors creeping into production, and just having much better control and visibility over changes being made in Salesforce.
So it's more than just speed.
Oh, much more. As Avinash puts it, it helps build a culture of agility and continuous improvement.
Yeah.
It empowers teams. They can deliver higher quality work faster. They can respond better when the business needs change. And they can innovate more with confidence because the underlying process is solid.
Building that strong foundation for reliable change.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into understanding DevOps and Gearset fundamentals, really leveraging the insights from Avinash Dhur's work.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
We did. We looked at where DevOps came from, its core principles, CI, CD, collaboration, all that, and then how a tool like Gearset makes those principles real and practical for Salesforce teams.
Hopefully it's given you, our listener, a good handle on this critical area. Some solid takeaways about how modern software development, especially in Salesforce, is evolving.
Absolutely. Think of it as a shortcut to getting up to speed. Now, as always, we like to leave you with a little something to think about.
A provocative thought.
Right. So consider those core DevOps ideas. Collaboration, automation, continuous feedback. Even if you don't work in software, how could you apply those principles somewhere in your own life or work?
Interesting question.
Where could a bit more collaboration or maybe automating a tedious task or getting better feedback, where could that make a process smoother or more reliable for you? Something to chew on.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
See you next time.